And now on to Michigan's 13th congressional district, where we saw a heated race between Shri Thanedar and Donovan McKinney. Now, just for some context, this district used to be represented by Rashida Tlaib, but it wasn't until after the 2020 census that district lines had changed. So now, Shri Thanedar, who's representing another district, was now representing the 13th, which mainly encompasses Wayne County and Detroit, or Detroit in Wayne County. So because of that, we know that Shri Thanedar, he has been doing whatever he needs to do to try to hold on to his seat. Ever since he first ran for office, this guy could not be trusted. Okay, so it has been widely reported that when Shri Thanedar first decided to run for office, he was asking consultants what party he should run for. Not asking like friends or family, like, what do you think? But more like, what the consultants will tell me will be enough to make sure that I can win. And it's not like, he thought about his values, what policy he believes in. It was all about what wagon he can hitch a ride to in order to cruise through the general election. Well, in a crowded field, he won as a Democrat. Ran in the Democratic primary, ran in the general election, and he won. So he's been trying to hold on to that seat ever since. And leaning into that progressive wave, he knew he can be a member of the CPC, the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Also, he was a member of Democratic Socialists of America back in Michigan. So these are the things that he was doing, which, sure, who wouldn't want to see a progressive become a DSA member? That sounds great, but the way he used those groups as labels to, cover him from his poor actions in Congress, inexcusable. For example, as a member of the CPC and a member of DSA, so let me back up. As a member of the CPC, he is the exact reason why I don't give a lot of credit to the Congressional Progressive Caucus. They have 90 members, which sounds great in theory, but Shri Thanedar is the reason why they don't actually have much integrity. During his time in office, he hasn't really voted that much aligned with progressives. And what he stands for and talks about, not very progressive. So it was no surprise then on October 7th that Shri Thanedar not only renounced DSA for how they handled, that whole issue, but then also took away his membership, being all right, I'm out, goodbye. And he exited DSA. So it's one thing to say, I don't agree with the group, but I'm going to work with you guys and see how can we, forge a better path together. But he didn't want to have that conversation. And he was just out for the count. And on top of that, even being a member of the CPC, for someone who was going to be aligned with, AIPAC, how is he going to then fight for his constituents who are telling him, we don't want that? So he was clearly at odds with not only progressive values, progressive policy, but the jig was up. People knew he was in it just to hold on to power. So what's even more gross about this guy is that, sure, he's able to fundraise well, but that's also because he's a multimillionaire. He doesn't necessarily need to rely on his, salary from Congress in order to stay afloat, when he can hang out with some wealthy donors and keep enriching himself all along the way. So being a multimillionaire and also having a checkered past, this is something that Donovan McKinney picked up on in the primary. So here's how sleazeball Shri Thanedar was when Donovan McKinney, strong black, progressive, and Democratic Socialist, entered the Democratic primary. It was in April of 2025, well over 16 months ago. Donovan McKinney launched his campaign one Monday morning in April. That same day, in April of 2025, Shri Thanedar filed articles of impeachment. The liberals are probably thinking, what's wrong with filing articles of impeachment? Well, here's the thing. It's one thing to file articles of impeachment where then the president gets impeached, meaning you have a strong case, there's a lot of, evidence there, and clearly there could be leading to a conviction in the Senate. That would actually mean something. But after Trump 1.0, and we saw where he was, charged with impeachment twice, but not convicted in the Senate twice, filing it again, 4 months into his second term, it wasn't going to hold water in any way, shape, or form, knowing that Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. This would just make Democrats and the left look weak, ineffective, and wasting everybody's time. But Shri Thanedar did not care. He knew as long as he was the first Democrat to file articles of impeachment, the media would pick up on it. And that was the goal, and he did it. He used his position of power to grab headlines so that the media would focus on him and not his challenger in the Democratic primary. That is exactly how sleazeball this guy is and how he can never be trusted. The fact that he was using his position of power to really just go against a fellow Democrat, let alone a Democrat who would win the election, but then also, trying to thwart progressives. Meanwhile, this guy was supposedly a progressive. And the fact that Donovan's a black man, I'm like, the fact that Shri Thanedar would even think the optics would be good. Listen, I remember when that happened, I was shocked, I was appalled, and a lot of folks were really upset that he did that. The fact that Thanedar would abuse his power to be so petty. And I'm like, if that's all he's really all about, being competitive against fellow Democrats and not even trying to do good against Trump for the sake of the country, I'm sorry, you're out. You're out. Cannot be trusted. You had your chance. Goodbye. Time for new leadership. So since then, this has been a very contentious primary. Donovan McKinney has been doing the work on the ground. So fortunately, Donovan McKinney has been building coalitions. He's been working with local leaders and getting endorsed by local institutional figures in the Democratic Party. Not only from group leaders, but also elected officials, especially in the black community. So the fact that Donovan was a state senator, or actually still is a state senator in his own right, gave him the confidence within the local establishment to work together. And in the black community, black voices still supported Donovan McKinney because they knew that he was going to protect their community. And the brilliance of his campaign is that by building a wide coalition, he was able to, bring more of the Democratic Socialist progressive wing to his campaign. And honestly, that was a brilliant strategy, able to bridge the divides between what are the needs in the district from the black community, from local leaders, but also what is the new vision that progressives and Democratic Socialists are fighting for. And honestly, it's truly paid off on election night. I'm so happy it did, where by the end of the day, Donovan McKinney won that election with 51.9% of the vote compared to Shri Thanedar's 48.1%. Now, even in terms of voting, it was great to see Donovan McKinney went out with 57,000 votes, whereas Shri Thanedar, he came in second with 53,000 votes. So that being said, Donovan McKinney did the work, had the organizing, and built the coalition between local establishment and the progressive vision, putting those two factions together to sail to victory. Now, it was a close race, but at the end of the day, he still came out on top. And the fact this is Wayne County, a solid Democratic stronghold, so Donovan McKinney is very likely to become the next member of Congress for Michigan's 13th congressional district.